Hello friends, Mr. E here reporting live for Sloptide News Network, your most trusted source for all things darktide, and of course, Skitarii, because it is all about Skitarii. It is the Skitarii-centric world these days, and this is probably the juiciest, biggest drop we're going to get prior to release. The Skitarii game design and talents dev blog had just come out a couple hours ago, and oh boy, it is a doozy. You're going to be strapped in here with me for a while. I am going to be reacting to some of this live. I've been able to read over it, a good portion of it. But yeah, this is, there's a lot of content here. There's a lot of information. Although they're not able to show every single talent, we're going to get a really good idea about the unique mechanics of this class. And I don't know if you saw, but we had a collaboration with Ryan, another darktide tuber, a couple days ago, and we tried to predict this. And while we were somewhat accurate on some counts, they really threw us for a loop on a lot of others, which I think is a great testament to just how different this class is. The design elements that they've chosen, the unique mechanics they've incorporated here are actually kind of blowing my mind. I did not think they would go this far abroad from the typical, the typical sort of treat we had had with the previous classes, but here we are. So let's dive into it. Enough with the yap. I'm going to skip their yap too, and we're going to hop right to the part people want to know, the unique mechanics. So there's a bunch of this class, and the first one is Combat Ability Capacitance Charge, or CAC. So the combat abilities, instead of having a cooldown, it is based on your capacitance charges, and these capacitance charges are basically, I'm imagining like a battery with like little segments in it. And so those little segments, having a single one of them enables you to use your combat ability from the get-go, but accumulating more charges empowers your ability. And that means that the combat abilities that the Skitarii has, they can scale up as you have more combat capacitance, but also, is when you use it, it drains the entire capacitance, excepting the Cord Claw Strike, which is an ability we'll get to later on. But yeah, that means you're going to drain all of it. And in order to generate these charges, it is not just a cooldown based thing like other classes. And this is something that Yobi was dead on with. He said that he thought there would be a massive sort of focus on having this class be a resource generator and dumper, like an engine. So it's got a lot of talents, not just certain keystones that increase your cooldown rates, but it's instead you're going to have talents and things that you're going to be doing actively, depending on which talents you choose, that can generate more capacitance for you, and then you can then spend that on abilities. And that is so cool. Killing basic and elite enemies as a baseline, but also through other talents that will allow you to generate more charge by doing specific stuff. So think about how the Psyker's Force Greatsword works, where it has those charge bars. That is basically what capacitance is here, right? When you use the Psyker's Force Greatsword, what's it called? The Warp Slash or Warp Shock Slash, that expends all of the charge you have. If you spend it when you have a half charge, the one pip of charge, you get a certain amount of damage. When you have two, you get a certain amount more. It's going to be very similar for abilities here, and killing enemies is going to empower it just as it does for that. So I'm certainly drew inspiration there. So there's also many other talents that synergize with this mechanic, such as by triggering effects when gaining charges or giving you different ways to charge your capacitance. That is super cool to me, right? If we can build a character, this really reminds me a lot of like Path of Exile stuff, where when you gain a power charge, gain this effect. When you gain an endurance charge or lose an endurance charge, gain this effect. That is super, super cool. Here is another place they threw us for a massive loop. The Servo Skull, the Blitz and Companion. So both of us predicted, both Yobi and I predicted that there were 3 different Blitzes, obviously, but those 3 Blitzes were all going to be different variations in Servo Skulls, and that we would only have a maximum of 1 Servo Skull. Wrong. Wrong on all counts. So the Servo Skull is a default Blitz available to you that can follow you around. It is your little companion, and you can point it towards enemies to attack them, and you can point it to data interrogators to ping it. It'll hack the interrogator on its own with no interaction needed from you. It's slower than a competent player, as Victor says here, as Gunnar says here, but you can still continue fighting. So it's going to just be a de facto better way of doing it, I would assume, unless it's just super slow, like it takes 45 seconds or something. But by investing more talent points into Blitzes, you can add more skulls. You can actually have up to 2 additional skulls. There's an additional flamethrower skull with an integrated flamethrower, and there's one with a Medicae functionality. So you can even take both of those as well. So you'll have a main skull, which is your targeted shooter that has the las pistol, and maybe that one can actually be augmented as well. And then it can also hack enemies, or hack locations, the data interrogators, and then you've got your support skulls as well. So here's our pictures. Here's our flamethrower, and then this is the default one. Here's the Medicaid one. So they say that these two have a certain look. You'll always know what these skulls are, but this one here, this is the one that you'll be able to customize with your different looks. And so here's a sample of them, which actually are super, super cool. So we got the Sienna skull over here. We've got the, I don't know what I'd call that. Looks like something out of Diablo or yeah. And then I like this one, kind of like a little extra little hair back there. So yeah, these just the primary servo skull is customizable, which is pretty cool that we get to have that. And it's the one of 3 Blitzes available to the Skitarii. So it's not a thing you'll always have. So I would guess that the reason that we didn't see it in the trailers they showed already is because those Skitarii were all equipped with one of the other 2 Blitzes they haven't talked about yet. So yeah, you can choose not to have a servo skull. You won't be able to do the hacks. You won't be able to shoot. Potentially, maybe. I guess no. It'll be. This is one of the Blitzes, and then you'll spend more points to get this one or that one, and or that one as well, which is pretty cool. And then it looks like this was actually pretty correct. I believe on Yobi's part, I believe he said something about that we would be able to consume Medicaid or hold stims. I think that carrying stims and injecting them in another player is definitely a really good idea, because you don't have to chase the player down. So this thing can just fly over and stab someone for you. And also, potentially, it can actually hold a med crate. So if you have an extra med crate on the team, or maybe they don't show it here, but maybe you can drain a charge from the Medicaid station that has it. Maybe they're just trying to show that symbols on both of those, but I'm thinking maybe there's something to do with that as well. So going beyond the skulls that we have is the deluxe edition skull. Okay, we get to arc weapons here. So they're kind of going all over the place, but that's because we're just getting kind of a sample tasting. Arc weapons. So this is something we actually get pretty close to guessing. Arc weapons have a synergy with electrify. So other classes have the ability to electrify enemies, right? Notably, the Psyker and the Abilties have a lot of electrify in their talent tree. So these 2 classes can electrify enemies, and of course the Skitarii now can. And if an enemy is electrified, if you shoot them with a weapon that has the arc tag to it, it will jump between those electrified enemies, and it will jump to another enemy and electrify them. So if you think about it like this, if you first shoot one enemy, it's going to hit that enemy, it's going to electrify them, but it won't arc or anything. Then the next time you shoot them, it'll jump off of them because they're already electrified and jump to someone else. So then you'll have one electrified enemy, you'll have 2 electrified enemies, and now it'll arc 2 times, and then jump to 1 more, and then 3 times, and then 4 times. So this is how you'll continue to clear forwards. So it's a really powerful strategy here to be able to electrify a lot of enemies at one time, and get more enemies electrified, and then start arcing them. So hopefully there's a way, I believe that this is where the arc maul is going to come in. I believe that the arc has the passive, much like the other shock mauls in the game do, where when you're heavy attacking or staggering enemies, it electrifies them, and then when you activate it, it activates the arc mode that's then going to sort of arc between them and clean them up. So that's what he was talking about, Victor was talking about, when he was alleging that these weapons are really good for horde control, and because it can chain lightning, and it grows over time. So that's really cool. And of course, Psyker Smite back in meta, Psyker Smiting is going to set you up so that you can just like boom, 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 or even with the electrokinetic staff, which is awesome. Okay, then we've got an upcoming post about the arc weaponry and the Skitarii's arsenal. Of course, I'll be all over that one, guys, so don't worry about it. I'll let you know when it happens. And then we get to the big stuff. Okay, brace yourselves, guys. The gameplay and talents. So, this class is extremely flexible. It's up to the player to decide how to build his Skitarii and what aspects to focus on. To support that, the Skitarii has a unique layout to his talent tree. Rather than going top to bottom, following different branches, this class's talent tree starts from the center and allows player to expand outwards in different directions, taking a cog-like shape. So we previously saw this on some of their dev blog where they're designing it, right? So I think many people were very comfortable with that idea. But with this, you can even opt to not pick blitzes, combat abilities, or talents if you want to focus your talent points on other things. So unlike other classes where you are forced, in order to get to the powerful talents at the bottom of the tree, you must select an ability, you must select a blitz, you must select an aura. You can just forgo it entirely, which is very, very interesting and might lead to some very curious builds. You've heard of Keystoneless Veteran, now get ready for ability aura blitzless Skitarii. So here we go. Oh my gosh. So obviously, a little bit of a bamboozle has been pulled on us here. They have definitely expanded this tree. They have modernized it a little bit. We were wrong about some stuff here, guys. We were definitely wrong about some stuff here. But what looks like we've got our Cord Claw ability down here. That's where our Cord Claw ability is. Over here, this is our Headhunter sort of Ranger ability with the sniping. Then up here is something with electricity. It looks like we're actually casting it with our hands, which is very interesting. Something with healing, maybe? Speed up? We will have to do a deep dive and try to like analyze what these are. Here is our Servo skull mechanic right here. I like how we've got a rocket launcher icon. Hopefully that's yeah, that must be just like a glitch, because this is a pre-testing. We get your ability there, but you get the Hive Scum rocket launcher, and then we've got the Psyker's Void Blast, or like the what's it called? Psychic Screech aura there. But then we've got, this is the Servo skull. This looks like we've got the three options for the Servo skull there. It's kind of hard to make out. Over here, this seems as we've got a defensive shield. So this is a very interesting one. We got a healing shield. We've got something to do with being with your allies. Up here, there's another type of grenade. This is maybe electrifies. It looks like it has some electric charge around an enemy there. Very, very cool stuff. A lot to think about there, and we'll see what they talk about later on. And as far as no idea how we can make sense of the auras, they're just kind of the same looking thing. And then Keystones, can't really determine what that's supposed to be as far as Keystones. Too hard to tell, but super, super cool layout. Gives me a million billion ideas. So if you're already thinking about the Mr. E's original build, it's something down here, right? It was like this ability. Might have to be modified a little bit, but it's this Keystone, this ability. We'll see how it shakes out. Okay, so we've been experimenting with different layouts for a while, even as back as when we first reworked the talents in patch 13, and after 6 successful classes, we were confident enough to push the boundaries of what works with the talent tree and darktide and try this out. So as a flexible jack of all trades, the modular nature of the Adeptus Mechanicus, it's the perfect time to try this. And there is no hard emphasis on pre-existing archetypes or playstyles. You can go all over the tree. This is something I was replying to people in the comments. They're like, this is just going to force people to, path on certain sides. But if they did this right, and they've had enough time to work on this, and I believe they've been putting their due diligence in here, there's going to be crazy synergies between stuff that are on opposing sides of the tree, right? That's just how you would logically do that. Where if you have to make this huge traversal to get to other things on other sides of the tree, then you're going to get a big reward for it. And that's something that we see on the veteran tree currently, where if you want to use the recon las gun and do like shock trooper with free ammo, but you also want to take onslaught and all these really high damage boosting perks for it, it costs like just enough points that it takes everything you've got. So that could be a really cool way to path around that tree. Okay, we got some samples of talents here, and let's see what they've got for us. They do, by the way, say, where is it? One of 4 themes that players can follow and build towards. So there's 4 different themes in here. It seems like it is melee, range, support, and electrocution. So it's not the 4 abilities, but there's just 4 main types. So first of all, melee talents. These talents are for melee, duh. Some examples. Electro Strike Conduit. Melee critical hits electrocute the first target hit. Okay, so that's pretty good, right? You'd like to get that target electrocuted so then you can arc off of them. I don't necessarily know how impactful that's going to be, because for many enemies in the game, a melee critical hit is an instant kill, so maybe not that great. Target neutralization feedback. Weak spot kills grant stun and suppression immunity for a short duration. Stun immunity is pretty good as far as for melee. If this is only for weak spot kills though, and not for melee weak spot kills, suppression immunity is actually really good for range characters. And then we go successful melee attacks, grant a stacking bonus to attack speed for a short duration. We like attack speed, that's good, it's not that interesting. Ranged talents, here we go. So for ranged talents, these talents allow you to improve your range capabilities. Duh. Ammunition Restoration Pod. Replenish 1% of your ammo reserve every 15 seconds. Alright, so we've got something akin to having a veteran on the team. So it's like 1/3 as potentially as effective as the veteran's aura is, but that over time, it really adds up. It doesn't sound like a whole lot, but think of it in the sense that this more or less is going to replenish 4% of your ammo every minute, and therefore it'll take 25 minutes, but you'll get your full ammo supply back. That's a nice little juicy clip of ammo, and because, on Havoc mode, ammo is scaled down by 60%, so you only get 40% of the normal amount. This is actually getting a lot of value. This is generating a lot of value, and for weapons with a high reserve, comparatively to their clip size or whatever, that's going to be big. Rad Sync. After not shooting for at least a second, gain increased damage on your next shot. So this is going to be for picking your careful shots. Gunsmith. Gain increased reload speed. Additionally, after not shooting for a few seconds, reload a portion of your magazine from your reserve each second. So that's nice. I wonder if this works when it's put away. I would guess it does. You probably put it away in your backpack. You can melee and then pull it out, and we will be ready to go, which other classes have attempted. Other classes have variations of this, but this one might be pretty cool. Support talents down here. You know what they are. Salvation Doctrine. Gain increased damage reduction and revive speed while reviving an ally. Nice. I mean, we like her revive speed. Revive speed is super, super OP. Saves games. When at full toughness with power overflow, when at full toughness, a portion of your excess toughness replenished is distributed to each ally in Coherency. That's very cool. So this is copied, by the way. If you are not a Vermintide 2 player, this is copied from a, not Mortis Trial, from a Chaos Waste perk. There's a perk in Chaos Waste that is considered a very, very, very strong perk, where when you have full toughness, it would be health in that game, and you generate temporary HP, it gives it to your nearest ally that doesn't have full temporary HP. So you're just able to, when you're safe and someone else is taking damage, you're able to basically take the damage off of them by just providing shields for them, which is awesome, because you're going to be able to then stack different ways of generating your toughness and just be the team's toughness topper. That is super cool. That's a great idea to incorporate that in the game. Protectorate Protocol. Incapacitated allies in Coherency have increased damage reduction. If you free them, gain stun immunity, increased damage reduction for a short duration. Okay, that's nice, because this will be incapacitated allies or allies who are pinned or trapped or somehow disabled from moving. So yeah, these guys are going to take way less damage. And if you kill the dog, or if you pull them up from the trapper, you're going to get stun immunity, you're going to get damage reduction. Nice little reward, a good little way to be supportive for your team. Electrocution talents, so the unique arc mechanic, and then Voltaic Burst is one here. Staggering enemies with a push applies electrocution, dealing damage and stunning enemies on a cooldown. That is super, super cool. Wow, that's actually a great one. I was wondering how we could apply electrocution to more enemies other than by using the ability, but yeah, by just shoving them. Much like one of my favorite Ogre abilities, where you get that 8-second cooldown on that massive 250% increased stagger shove. This is going to deal a stun and damage to enemies that you can stagger with your shove. So this is going to encourage you to build impact. Therefore, you'll have a higher stagger value on your shove, and that is going to therefore electrocute more enemies, and then you can hit them with the follow-up hits to start arcing off of them, which is a great little combo. Weakness Analysis Doctrine. Gain increased damage for a short duration when hitting any enemy suffering from electrocution, soul blaze, burning, bleeding, or toxin. This is going to be an automatic pick, I would guess, on most classes that are looking to do damage, depending on how big that damage buff is, but I'm betting it's pretty big because, I mean, these are super, super common effects in the game right now, and there's obviously massive synergies with the game. System Shock, as we saw, this was one of the ones that was kind of glimpsed very briefly in that dev blog trailer. System Shock, electrocuted an enemy, applies 4 stacks of brittleness to them. So we've got a way to embrittle enemies as well as electrocute them. That is probably very, very powerful. That is very likely extremely powerful, depending on how easy it is to electrocute enemies. I mean, obviously, if you have that plus the ability up here to melee critical hit electrocute, and you've got something that, a dagger or something like that, maybe even one of the cord claws or something, that is going to then make that armor penetration even better, which is awesome. Okay, so here's our combat abilities. Finally, we're down here. So we have a Voltaic Emitter. This one is the one that we were very much question marks about. Voltaic Emitter. Unleash an electric discharge around you, stunning, electrifying, and damaging enemies near you. With multiple capacitance charges, the effect is improved, such as by also disabling the weapons of enemies in a nearby area. Okay, so there's some mysteries explained. There was a penance that we were talking about when we were going over the data mine penances, and one of them was enemies' weapons disabled. I thought maybe it was the hacking drone. He thought I can't remember what he thought it was going to be. I think he also thought it was going to be this ability, or I don't remember. But Voltaic Emitter, turns out that's the one that it can do. So you can actually upgrade the charge, and you can stun and damage enemies near you. But if it's a larger area, then it can go out and disable weapons. So you're not only protected from getting hit by the stunned enemies near you, but then for ranged enemies that are farther out. So TBD whether or not this is It says unleash an electric discharge. That to me sounds like it's instantaneous, but there's a potential that it's an emitter, not like a capacitor that just dumps all at once. So there's a potential here that it could like distribute over time. So you're like a walking aura that zaps. We'll see. Cord Claw Strike. All right, this is the one that I was pretty sure of here. Perform a powerful heavy melee attack using a Cord Claw. This ability does not consume multiple capacitance charges, allowing you to store and perform several attacks. Store multiple to perform several attacks in succession. I would love to know, like, you know, is there a charge? It's probably linked to it. Like if we look up here at the Cord Claw, enhance, right? I'm guessing something here probably makes you do like a short dash or something to get in there and get that melee strike. That would make sense to me if there's like a little bit of a lunge incorporated with this claw. And then finally, advanced combat doctrines. The one that we were probably most comfortable was coming to the class because it was data mined. For a short duration, your weapon locks on enemies close to your target reticle, granting you inhuman accuracy. So I believe it's going to target heads. It gives you stability. It gives you recoil control. It just makes all your bullets find their marks, which is... This is a good fit for the game in its current state because the game is so hectic. It's very, very hard to play with weapons that incentivize you. Okay, you must hit headshots, and if you don't, you're a bum. So now, even if you are a little bit of a bum, you can use advanced combat doctrines and just automatically ping some heads as long as you get the cooldown for it. All right, then we've got some blitzes here. So we've got our 3 blitzes are the Artificer Servo Skull. This Servo Skull can complete shoot enemies and complete data interrogations. Further talents allow you to bring specialized Servo Skulls. So all Servo Skulls are wrapped together underneath this one. You can spend additional points to get your Medicae Servo Skull and your Flamethrower Servo Skull. Arc Grenades, as we saw up there, definitely it looked like something with shock. So yeah, there we go. Electric explosions that arc several times. And then finally, we have the integrated refraction emitter. So Yobi was right that there was a refraction shield in here somewhere, but it was in one of the blitzes. Surrounding yourself with a shield that absorbs all incoming range damage for a short duration. And I also believe that this blitz ability, because you can see here, you can invest, much unlike other classes, I feel like most other classes don't really have a whole lot, except for Psyker, have a whole lot of like augments on their blitzes. This one has 3 and 3 and 2, and this grenade has 3 on it. I bet that one of these here allows you to throw this and hit allies with it, or maybe throw it, hit an ally, and you both get the buff. So because there is a penance for protecting allies with that shield. So this could be potentially really powerful. I'm guessing because it is a blitz, it consumes, you know, blitzes. That means that we are going to be seeing a like probably an invuln. It's probably like a complete invuln, which could be insane depending on how long it lasts. Oh, it's all, yeah, all incoming range damage. That's issue really, really good in certain circumstances. It allows a good push into some crazy spots. Coherency auras. So now we've got our coherency. You and allies in coherency regenerate 50% coherency toughness regardless of enemy proximity. Wow, finally we did something with coherency toughness. So if you're unaware, guys, the way that coherency toughness works, you know, when you hang out near your allies in like an elevator or whatever, your toughness will all go back to full, right? That is disabled when enemies are threatening you in melee, which is like most times generally. That means that for Ogryns, especially because they have such large hitboxes, it's almost impossible to actually get coherency regeneration going. However, if someone on your team is now the Skitarii and they get this, they regenerate 50% coherency toughness. Now the Ogryn can actually regenerate quite a lot because the Ogryn has a lot of talents that boost his toughness replenishment, which can multiply this effect. And you could actually take, oh my god, guys, toughness regeneration curios. They're back. They've returned from the grave. Holy shit. For all these years, toughness regeneration on curios has been a meme, but this actually brings it back because giving 50% of that back, that regeneration with all 3 of those curios starts after like 0.9 seconds. You almost immediately start regenerating after you get hit, and it's not that slow. I've made builds before on like the Zealot, for instance, where if you stealthed, you could get almost your entire bar back if you had like a minimal amount. Like you can generate, you know, about 10 per second. This allows you to generate 5, but you can up that if you're Ogryn. Ogryn can generate a lot. This actually makes me like that. I'm actually thinking about this. That's cool. Ammunition deposit. This is pretty boring. You and allies coherency have a 10% ammo reserve, and then you and allies in coherency gain increased cleave and rending. I wondered if they were going to do a rending one. This is going to be very, very powerful as well. It's hard to say. Like, you know, there's obviously you don't have to take any auras with this class, right? You do not have to choose an aura. It's an extra point you're spending. So they got to make these auras worthwhile. It's going to come down to what these percentages are, right? This is obviously 10%, this is 50, but what are these percentages right here? Because it's a whole talent point you got to spend. I would say that right here, this is not worth. There's no way 10% ammo reserve is worth a talent point. So yeah, that's going to be never chosen, I would say. At least if I'm choosing, I'm not going to choose this. This is potentially pretty powerful. This, depending on the percentage that it is, which I imagine it'll be good enough, is going to be very powerful. All right, now we get some keystones here. Oh wow, we get to see the keystones. So redline capacitors is one of them here. Gain increased toughness, damage reduction, and capacitance generation whenever you spend or gain an ability charge. Additionally, you have +1 max ability charges. Ooh, that is super cool. All right, so like, yeah, we get an additional bit of flexibility to our class, and it's going to give us more capacitance back. What's this called again? Redline capacitors. Let's see where this actually is. I wonder if we can figure it out from looking at them. So that is, this looks like it's like a group with some arrows over them. That's probably not it. I bet, what does this look like? That kind of looks like that might be a it's like got like a, I don't know. No, it's like a fist. This one looks like a guy who's exploding. So let's assume that, let's just kind of like err on the side of that one there. What was the next one? Oh, no, that's the power overload. Okay. Flensing protocols. Killing elites and specialists grants flensing protocol charges, which increase your damage and toughness damage reduction. Charges are lost when taking damage. Okay. So yeah, we've got a stacking buff here that's going to encourage you to flight. This is going to be like the pro player choice here because yeah, having a stacking damage reduction and stacking damage boost without taking damage, it's like the inverse of martyrdom. You're going to be playing with advantage here, more or less, because the next time you take damage, yes, you'll lose your damage buff, but also you'll take less damage because of the damage reduction. And yeah, it's going to encourage you to play at your absolute best, which some people are really good. And then power overload. Killing enemies grants stacks of power overload. When reaching the maximum amount of stacks, trigger an overload, which improves the damage and toughness damage reduction to you and allies in coherency for a short duration. Okay, that's pretty cool. I don't know why they're just doing like damage and toughness damage reduction on all of these, but maybe it's varied up. They're just saying damage, but it's actually like damage that's differentiated in different ways. Okay. So now some questions to wrap everything up here. Bonus questions. How many major iterations of the talent tree have there been? 15. We've been working on the Skitarii since before Hivescum released, I told you guys. And during that time, it was just me and a few coders prototyping, trying things out. Back then, we were throwing everything at the wall and doing all sorts of weird iterations. This time around, we had the talent tree up and running in some form very early on, earlier than we've ever had it before when building a class. Good, Gunner. Good job, man. I understand this is, Gunner's, he's been working on this for like more than a year. I am very impressed. I'm very impressed with this work here. What's your favorite part of the Skitarii talent tree? I think the Cord Claw is really cool and super satisfying to use. Even the first version that we got in, I was already in love. It's going to be my go-to when we release it for sure. And then that's Gunner. And then Victor says, I really like the weapon disabling the one voltaic emitter can do. It's super cool. That one, or it's one that at face value maybe doesn't sound super powerful, but in the right situation, it's a lifesaver and really powerful. Like with how the game works, it's actually very powerful. Yeah, I mean, I agree. This is going to be an instantaneous chorus, right? Chorus Zealot is powerful because it disables not only the enemies near you, but the larger aura around it, that pulsing, that suppresses enemies from being able to attack. And if this jams their weapons for even 5 seconds on like pulsing it out, and you can regenerate these charges pretty frequently, you could jam up all of those annoying ass ranged enemies. And for a lot of ranged enemies, they can swap to their melee, which will force them to run in probably. And then for gunners, they're just going to stand still and they're going to be like banging on their gun, like, what the hell? I can't shoot. And then they're going to die, which is awesome because we all hate gunners. All my homies hate gunners. Okay, what did you have the most fun working on? I think the talent tree layout has been really enjoyable to work with since it's a bit different. Yeah, I mean, that is really cool. And servo skulls for Victor. Okay, so that's all we had today. Wow, that was so cool. I am gonna just do a deep dive on this at some point and looking over these and seeing what I can like try and scrabble together and think about what these talents would be. But a lot of them I think are also placeholders. It's very interesting. One thing that I didn't comment on here is I thought that these little nodes right here would just be more power, like be more capacitance, but it seems like they have their own identities. It seems like these are going to increase certain things. So what I'm seeing here, I think this right here is on headshot kill, you gain capacitance. This one is just going to be a base boost to the capacitance. This one is on killing 3 or more enemies or something like that, and I don't know what this one is, but like it's different sort of circumstantial ways that you can gain. Oh, and they erased this one up here. That's interesting. Yeah, there used to be one up there. That was right there. There was a little red one. So very cool. We were as far as our accuracy here, we were fucking wrong as shit. We were super off base on a lot of this stuff, but it was very fun to collaborate with Yobi and sort of speculate anyway. We did kind of get there, you know, on some of the abilities were kind of close, but yeah, everything else was wild stuff they're doing with this tree. I'm super excited to play with this class. I know you guys are too. We are less than 2 weeks away. Heck, we're what, 12 days away. How awesome is that? All right, guys. Well, I won't take too much more of your time. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one. Mystery out. Bye-bye.